Welcome back to Ducks Can't Draw. Today I had a beautiful plan for what I wanted to paint. It was going to be like a half and half of like how the world sees you versus how God sees you, and I was really excited. But then I realized that that's a lot to paint. I don't know if you saw, but in that sketch, there was a lot of like torso fitting on that canvas that was not going to fit on that canvas. It was hard enough to paint this small already, and that would have been significantly smaller scale. On the left, I was going to paint like a messy, broken woman who had this beautiful heart, right? And on the right, I was going to paint, someone out having a good time, someone conventionally beautiful, all of those nice things. And the idea was it would be like, who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to invest yourself? Do you want to invest yourself in the earthly or in the eternal? And that was a great idea until I realized that I can't paint. I don't know if you can tell, but right here I'm trying to put some blue glitter on the right side of the face. Like to show like maybe she's at a party or like a sports game, but she's living her best life and she's colored up and pretty and stuff. But I don't know how to paint glitter. Even the finished thing doesn't look like glitter, but it looks colorful. So let's talk about why I'm painting what I'm painting. So I don't know if many of you know this, but I'm Catholic, and I have been my entire life. With that being said, I have not always lived up to being a Catholic. I have not always behaved how a Catholic should. Now, obviously, there is no one alive today who has lived an entirely sinless life, but that doesn't mean that we should stop striving for perfection. Over the weekend, I have decided to start taking my Catholicism more seriously after I went to Steubenville. I went last year, and it was a truly wonderful experience. I went to adoration for the first time last year. It was really moving, and I felt like God spoke directly to me. And in that moment, I was like, man, I will never go back to my sinful ways. I don't know how I ever behaved that way before. I didn't even recognize the way that I had been living. So I made this big sweeping vow, and I was like, I'm going to change, I'm going to be better. And at the time I meant it, but 2 weeks after that, I didn't. I treated my life change like a New Year's resolution instead of like a life change. This year during adoration, I felt a strong conviction for having made that horrible choice. Again, God showed me his awe and his beauty and his presence, and it was just completely humbling. And I couldn't believe that I had seen that before. I had felt that before. I had heard what I heard before, and I had still chosen to come back and sin the next day or the next week. This year, I'm trying to extend my Steubenville high as far as possible. So that's included adding a daily rosary to my routine. So far, daily has been an overstatement. There are a few hard things about this swing towards recovery, towards grace, towards all the things that, I'm meant for, that are right for me. One of the more obvious issues that I've been facing is that I'm queer. And I don't really want to get into the nitty-gritties of it, and I definitely don't want to tell you what you should be doing, because I don't even know what I should be doing, and that's really a conversation that you should have with God, A potentially less obvious issue that I've been running into, or at least one that I didn't expect, is the fact that everything that I do, like everything that is built into my life, is in some way sinful or guiding me towards temptation. Like, I did not realize until I made this radical decision that every song I listen to swears or is sexual in some way, or, is taking the Lord's name in vain, For a while, I would just tell myself, well, I can listen to them do it and I don't have to do it, which is true. Those things are true. But I started to realize, the things that I feed my brain are what my brain builds itself on, If I were to just eat M&Ms all day, I probably wouldn't be able to do the great running things that I could do if I ate broccoli and eggs and, well-rounded foods. In a similar way, I think if I feed my brain sinful things, then I won't be able to withstand the spiritual tests that are in my future. So I think a hard part is deciding what can stay and what shouldn't stay, and realizing that, I shouldn't probably be listening to this artist, and then actually doing it. But, like, my YouTube For You page does not know that I just gave my life to Jesus, So it's still showing me the things that it was showing me before Steubenville, which makes sense. And, like, my Apple Music playlists don't know to get rid of all of the things that I have decided are bad for me. So I have to, like, figure out how I'm going to do that. About here is where I decide, well, I don't want to paint which one of these are you going to be, because you can obviously live your life and be partyful and, still be religious and still believe in God. So I decided to change it to which one of these people are you going to listen to? Which of these people are you going to follow? Like, who do you belong to? So that's when our left character became Jesus. And I got to paint a crown and, bloody eyes. And when I put that red down, I was originally going to blend it out and try to make it look like he had been crying and his eyes were, like, puffy and red. But I kind of liked the way it looked just like that, so that's the way it stays. Here, I decide that I need to add Jesus' thorns into his crown because, he wasn't glorified on earth, he was punished. The painting's almost done. I end up putting his background as the cross with the left half of the INRI above his head. Someone at the conference told me it stands for Invite New Rebels In, which, although is obviously not true, is a nice way to think about it. All Christians, all Catholics, all religious, really, are rebels by choosing not to follow the ways of the world, but rather the ways of their own beliefs. Thanks for watching.